So hello, everyone. So nice to have you all again here. So this session is about introduction to business analysts. And Balaji is with us. He's our presenter, and he will talk to us about what is BA. And I don't know what's type of BA. This is what Kritika told us. And Kritika, thanks for connecting us to Balaji for this useful session. Just wanted to give a brief background about him. So he's a senior business analyst at Ampol. Am I right, Balaji? I took it from your LinkedIn. Yeah, and he has over 10 years of experience in business analysts, and he has worked with companies like Cognizant and Woolworths. And yep, so a lot of good knowledge he has, which he has been happy to share with everyone. So over to you.
Yeah. Thanks, Isha. Your voice did cut out a bit, but I think everyone probably was just a problem from my end. Thanks everyone for joining. I know it's a Saturday morning, so some of you may be not ready for a session like this, but I'll try to keep it as casual as possible. I don't want it to be a very formal training session or anything, right? And like Isha mentioned, I am a senior business analyst with Ampol right now. I joined Ampol very recently. I've been with Woolworths probably the longest. For the past 8 years, I've been with Woolworths, and before that, I was with Unilever, and they're all clients. I was actually employed by Cognizant. The thing about business analysts, and I have been a business analyst in one way, shape, or form for this entire time period. The thing about business analyst is it's a very hard job title to actually explain. In the sense, what do we actually do is quite hard to explain. But before I go into that, my question to those who are here, around 8 or 10 of you, is how many of you, like, I know you guys have switched off your video, which is perfectly fine, just probably using chat or something. Just let me know how many of you have actually worked as a business analyst before, even if it is for a month.
Maybe you guys can give a thumbs up if you have worked as a business analyst, like this one. Okay, so Monica has. Okay. Looks like we got only one person.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I was just trying to maximize my screen, please. Okay, so Monica, you have worked as a business analyst. Is that correct? Yeah.
I work as a business analyst currently also. So I'm a senior business analyst, yeah.
Okay, that's good. And how long have you been a BA?
7 years.
Oh, okay. So you're probably as experienced as I am. That's good. And so I'm assuming that the rest of you have it, which is fine. But I did see that someone mentioned they have worked as a test analyst. I think Poonam, that was you. How many of you have actually worked with the business analyst in their team, or even in their organization? They have worked with the business analyst.
Yeah, I have a BA in my team. We have developers and just one BA. And even in my previous job, we had only one BA, and for a long time we didn't even have a BA in the team. So because I think in small companies, the setup is not very ideal in terms of the team roles.
Fair enough, but so Poonam, I'm sorry, I'm going to call out on you, but in your opinion, who is the business analyst? Like, what is the job of? What is
okay, so I have mainly worked with functional BAs. Like they talk to product managers, they talk to clients, and they write all the user stories and pass on to developers and testers, and yeah, that's their day-to-day role, which I have seen from my experience. Yeah, somebody wrote a very good explanation, bridge between clients and developers. Yeah.
See, both of you are right. And in the sense that, yes, a BA talks to clients and talks to developers and acts like a bridge between them. But then the question actually comes, why do we even need a bridge, right? But like, let me just share my screen here. I do have a slide pack. It's not a formal training slide. It's more like a assisting thing. So I'm just going to share my screen, but sorry, it says I'm not allowed to share screen, Isha. Isha, are you here? I can't hear. Hello, can others hear me?
Yeah, we
Yes,
can hear you.
so I think she's made you as a co-host. You could probably try to share the screen. Is it what's happening actually?
It's saying host disabled participants from sharing screen.
Okay. I'll
That's
just
fine. Okay, it's fine, guys. Don't worry about it. I'll read out the slide. Let's talk about something that will probably explain to you in the best possible way what a business analyst does or is supposed to do anyway, right? I'm sure many of you have had this situation at your own home. Let's say your family wanted to buy a car, right? And they give that responsibility of buying the car to you. Yeah. I mean, when I say responsibility, I don't mean you have to put up the money to buy the car. It just means you are responsible for getting the car, purchasing it, paying for it from some account, and then bringing the car home. That's the job that you have been given. Now, you may or may not know about a lot about cars, but you are being the one who have been chosen to give the task, who has been given the task, right? So any of you, can you tell me how will you go about buying the car? In your own words, there are no wrong answers here. I'm like, it's just to understand what you guys think. Anyone who wants to volunteer?
Yeah, Kritika, you want to talk? I see a green tick next to you.
I know, Isha, sorry. He was asking if we could share the screen. That's the reason I just wanted your attention.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, Monica Rani, you can go.
Yep. Monica, you raised your hand. It's I don't know if your name is coming Monica Rani, so yeah, maybe it's a different name.
That's fine. Does anyone want to take a crack? Like I said, there are no wrong answers.
Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, before we like go to buy a car, we will see like how many members are there in the family, so how big we want the car to be, what is the use gonna be, like do we need it just for basic transportation, or maybe we might need something to use in the business as well. So depends what is the use of car and what features are required like to use the car, so that we will see first before we go to buy a car or decide which car to buy. That's
Yeah. Yeah, so you are talking like you mentioned, we have to consider what are what is the use of the car, right? What is the purpose of buying the car? And I think someone, Shruti has mentioned, you consider the budget and features of the car that you are going to purchase. Is that correct, Shruti? So guys, it would be better if you can actually speak out.
Yeah. Yes. I would consider budget first. How much I'm planning to put on the car, and what are the features I'm looking, how big, as previously someone mentioned. So yeah, that's one.
Okay. Anyone? Yeah, that's a good point. Anyone else wants to say, add anything here? Okay, see, between you guys, we have kind of covered it, but the key question that I can, okay, excellent. Oh yeah, I can now. Excellent. So I hope you guys can see my screen.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Yeah, so Shruti, to your one of the questions that you asked, the budget has been set as $40,000, right? Because that's the money that your family has saved up to buy a car. So one of your questions at least is answered, but obviously you still had a lot of other questions that we needed to answer. And the key question that Monica asked has not been answered, which is, why are we buying this car? Right? That is the first question you would generally ask. Yeah, right? Why do we need a car now? Do you already have a car? What kind of a car do you already have? So if you already have a car, then why do you need a new car? Is there any features that are missing in the current car? And is that why you are buying a new car? And which of these features that you really want in the new car is important and which is not? All of these are the questions that you'd ask, but most importantly, if you don't ask these questions and you go to a car dealer and you say, I have $40,000, I want a car, the car dealer person wouldn't know what to do, right? They will simply tell you, sorry, you have to tell me what kind of a car you want, then only they can show you something. Or worse, they will just sell you a car for $40,000, which won't serve the purpose anyway. So it's another wasted $40,000 from your family money, right? So that these questions are kind of something that is between your family and the car that you're going to buy. In other words, these are questions that are very specific about the needs of your family that a car dealer wouldn't know. And at the same time, these are questions that the car dealer have to have answers. So you have to somehow find the answers to these questions and explain the answers to the car dealer so that they can show you some car options that you can then buy. And that is more or less the job of a BA. In other words, a BA's job is to identify the needs of a business and determine the solution for the problem. So sometimes you may not be able to come up with the solution yourself. So you bring in solution architects and SMEs and a lot of other people. We'll talk about them a bit later. But as a BA, your job is to identify the needs and come up with the solution. The solution may or may not have an application or an IT change or a system development change, but it may not even have that. It may just have some process changes. It may have some people changes, right? Anything that will solve or meet the business need. That is a solution. And the business analyst's job is to identify the business needs and come up with a solution. And this definition is actually lifted from IIBA, which is the International Institute of Business Analysts, I think they're called, and their framework, which is BABOK, which is what the framework for business analyst is from their end. I put a link for that BABOK framework here. It is actually a freely available document. It's uploaded in a lot of university websites, even though I don't know if you can directly download it from BABOK's website, but here I have put in a link from one of the universities. But it's a big document. It's a 400-page document. Like, if you guys really feel the need to, you can read through it. But this is the definition that they give, like with some changes here and there. Anything that you want, like any questions that you guys have at this point on what is a business analyst supposed to do? No? Is that very clear? Or is that absolutely unclear, so you don't want to ask any questions?
No, all clear.
Oh, excellent. Now, this is a very hard thing to get your head around, in the sense that, I mean, like, why they here? What is your, like, do you work right now? You don't mind me asking?
Yes, I recently joined a company. I'm still doing my master's though, so I'm working part-time.
But what is your job title? Like, what do you do?
Currently as a software developer.
Developer. Okay. You see, software developer is again a tricky one. Probably that's a bad example, but a software developer's role is, in a way, a much more specific role, in the sense you have to develop a software to meet certain needs, right?
Yeah.
That's easy. I mean, it's very hard to do, I'm sure, but it's easy enough to understand what you're getting into, right? Business analysis is slightly harder, because this is very vague statement. It basically says you have to identify business needs and determine a solution. Like, it looks like anyone can do it. So why are some people business analysts and some people not business analysts, right? And even in some organizations, they have different titles. Like someone mentioned that their company doesn't have a BA, or they had only one BA. But the thing is, you may have people with different people doing different things. They may be called system analysts. They may be called uh, like change analysts or process analysts. But all of them are doing more or less at least a portion of a business analyst job, which is basically identify the needs and come up with a solution. So a process analyst who is documenting all the current processes in an organization may identify a need, saying, oh, wait a minute, this process is incomplete. So do we need to do something to fill the gap here? He has already become a business analyst. Or a change analyst who is doing training documents for the team members in a company. She may realize that, you know what, this particular training doesn't make any sense, because we are asking this team members to do something that doesn't work. So there is a need there to solve. So there is a business need. So they have also become a business analyst. So in a way, you may not have the job title business analyst, but in every organization that is looking at changing, like, a part of what they are currently doing, like changing their current processes, I assure you there is a business analyst in there. They may not be called a BA, but that's what they are doing. And that's why I like this definition, even though it's even more vague. I like this definition of what a business analyst is, and it simply says they add value by bringing clarity to a project. So I'll come to what a project is, but basically the business analyst job is, take a vague statement like, we want to buy a car for $40,000, or we want to implement a new system in our world, and convert it into something clearer, something actionable, something that can actually go any further. Rather than, like, if you just have a statement in your head that you want to buy a car for $40,000, it's not going anywhere unless someone brings a bit of clarity to that statement. And that's what BA is supposed to do. Now, some of you are in IT, from what I heard. Some of you are not. Like, I mean, at least some of you, I am assuming, are not in IT. So for those who are not, just a very brief introduction of what a project is, because I'll be using this word project over and over, and I just don't want you guys to get lost if we don't know what project is. There is a very fancy diagram here, which is fine. But basically what a project is project in an organization is basically you have a set of scope that you want to do, like you have a specific agenda that you want to achieve. Like you want to change the system, change a particular system because the old system is not working, or you want to implement a new thing because their process doesn't even exist today. You want to open a new store, you want to open a new branch of a bank. All of these are projects. So basically, project is nothing but a self-contained set of tasks which are all towards a specific agenda, which delivers a specific value to the end users. And project generally has a project manager and a few team members. So business analyst is what we're talking about, but there will be solution architects, system analysts, developers, testers, SMEs, um, business point of contact, and there will be a sponsor who actually pays for all of it, right? Some of you may not have worked in projects. Some of you may still be working on a day-to-day maintenance. Like, you have a system, it's there is nothing changing there, but every day there is a new problem that's coming, so you have to fix it. Technically, even that is a project, because yes, that project doesn't have an end date, it's a continuous project, but it still has a specific agenda, which is you have to keep the system running. So even that is technically a project. And all of these people, again, like I said, not all of them need to be in a project. Some of them are optional, and even if they are there, they may not have this job title, they may have something else as the job title. But again, this is just I give you an idea of what a project is. You don't have to dwell too much on this. And we'll go back to what we were actually talking about, which is BA analyst, business analyst. So like we saw earlier, right? A business analyst is supposed to find what is wrong with today's process. If there is nothing wrong, then the BA will just stop everything right there and say, guys, we don't have to do anything here. Everything is going smoothly. We will move on, right? So a business analyst job number one is what is wrong with the current process or current system or current whatever. Second, who is impacted by this wrong process? Like, is there anyone being impacted? Like, someone may say, oh, this whole system is not meeting our needs, but is there anyone actually impacted, or is everyone happy with this wrong process or system, right? So find out who is impacted. Then third thing, you have to find out what these people who are impacted, what do they want as the new process? And then you will go on to get in the details of what changes you need to make into the system or what the processes or whatever to achieve this new process, and then explain all of these changes to the IT people. And then obviously your job doesn't end there. Once the IT people understand what they have to do, they will go and do their work, but your job is to keep an eye on it, make sure that the new changes that they are making will indeed achieve the new process that the impacted people wanted you to achieve, right? And then once it's all done and dusted, then you have to go back to the people who asked you to implement the new process and explain the new changes to them, and then make sure that everything is going smoothly in the entire stretch of the project. Yes, Kritika.
Yes, hi Balaji. I think Janisha has a similar question as me. Can project management be understood as similar to a software development lifecycle? So project management lifecycle, is it similar to software development lifecycle? That's the question she had in the previous slide. Yes, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, thank you.
I wouldn't equate the two of them, mainly for two reasons. One, your project may not even have a software development. Mostly our IT projects do, but sometimes they don't. But more importantly, a project lifecycle starts before the software development starts, and it ends long after a software development actually finishes. What I mean by that is, like a project starts when you have to consider what is the problem statement, what is the scope, what is the budget that we are going to ask to implement the project, what is the return on investment that you're going to get from this project, in like what is the time frame by which time the project will pay itself, so what they call a business case of the project. So you have to work out a lot of these things, and then there is like, every organization generally has a approval thing where the high ranking people in the company come together and look at all this budget and stuff and say, yes, okay, go ahead, you can start the project. Then the project manager has to think about whom should I engage, who are the resources, etc. And then the software development starts, software development life cycle starts. And then the software development life cycle will end. But then the project manager has more work to do, because then they have to think about how to close the project, how to transition the software to the BAU team. So a lot more work is involved in pre and post of a project. Software development is just like is a portion of it. So in our example, in our car example, the software development lifecycle is the actual buying and running the car. The work that you do before you buy the car itself, the analysis that you do, the decisions that you make are generally outside the software development lifecycle, if that makes sense.
Balaji, I guess some of the activities might overlap, isn't it? When you do project management and then the software development lifecycle starts, so the project management activities might still be going or might have closed, isn't it?
See, yes, sometimes you may have work that is happening in parallel, but see, again, we are equating two different, we are actually comparing apples and oranges here, because a software development life cycle is a very focused on how to develop and maintain software and improve the software, right? Project in a way doesn't even have anything to do with software. It's more around the management of all the activities that are around the software development as well. So yeah, they can happen in parallel, they may happen in sequence depending on how efficient the company is, but as a general rule, project has its own set of activities that are different from software development.
Right. I was just wondering that the link on the first slide, is it like available online to everyone? Yeah, this is the
Then just
BA.
Google Babok version 1.6, you'll get it.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a huge document. It's a 400 odd page PDF document. So if you see that, that's the document.
Okay. Okay.
I don't know if it is
Thank you.
actually a free document, but it's available freely. So if it is there, you can use it. I mean, I found a free
Okay.
one,
Yeah.
so I assume it's
Right. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Now the document, because you asked about the document, just so you know, the document actually goes into a lot of detail about how BAs should do their job, what is the techniques and the tasks that they have to do, which is a very good starting point. It's just very hard to remember everything. It's a huge document, like I said. So you guys can have a read. You may not retain everything from it, but it will give you a definite understanding of what a BA should do in a lot more detail than what I'm sharing here. Janisha, please don't call me sir. I'm not a professor. Okay. Okay, I'll go back to where we were before. So I just want, again, probably I'm not going to call out anyone's name, but I just want someone to go back to this slide based on what we discussed, what I said. Can you go back to the original car example and now tell me, as a BA, how would you go and buy this car for $40,000? Anyone?
Yes, so there's nothing wrong in buying a car. So I would probably first convince myself that I need a car and then start off.
Why would you convince yourself?
Yes.
Like-
So because I need to commute to work, and I need to do my errands.
No. So that's fine, right? That's the requirement that you have. But my question was more around what will you first do in terms of like we know that we have to buy a car, but the like once you know that you have to buy the car, what is the next step?
Research.
On like what are you researching?
As in what cars are close to meeting my requirements, the list which I make when deciding to buy a car.
So remember this sequence, Vaidehi. Like this is, I mean, I know it's not written as a sequence, but it's actually in sequential order, right? The first thing you would do is identify what is wrong with the mode of transport that you have today.
Right.
If you have a car already, what is wrong with that car? Or if you are not using car today and you are using public transport, what is wrong with it? Why have you or your family suddenly decided to buy a car? That's the first step, right? Now, in that, with that in mind, what would be the second step?
May I?
Yeah, go ahead, please, anyone.
Hi. So once we have established what is the problem here, what's first we have established after the problem that I need a new car because my old one is not working as expected. So once I have established that I needed the car, that's the requirement for me. But now the next question comes up, uh, what purpose I want to solve if I want to buy a new car. Is this the same if I had supposed a small car with a 5-seater? If I'll buy the same car, will that solve my purpose, or I need some additions to it, or I need any additional features to it, like those kind of things. So I need to think on those lines and establish what is my current requirement, and on that basis I'll go with my features, additions, and all that stuff. I'll start looking into those areas.
Excellent. And that's perfect, because once like taking your own example, right? Once you've identified that you currently have a 5-seater car, and maybe that's the problem, that it has only 5 seats and now you need a car with more than 5 seats, then that becomes your first requirement. You've already written your first requirement. I want the new car to have more than 5 seats. And then, like you said, there may be other features that you need in your new car, which may or may not be very important, but you still write them down to say, okay, I want my car to have a sat-nav system. I want my car to have leather seats. I want my car to have rear camera, whatever it is that you think you need in your car, you write them down. Except it's not just you, because remember, we have to talk to people who are impacted or who are going to use the car, whether it may be your family members or it may be anyone else who might use the car. You talk to them as well and you find out what they need in the car, and you basically list down everything that everyone says as they need. This is important, that you don't filter anything at this point in time. You write down everything. You may not achieve everything in the new car, right? You may not get a car that is within $40,000, that have 7 seats, that have leather seats, that have sat-nav system, and like you may not achieve everything, but you write it down to begin with, and you write down in the order of importance. The most important thing may be that it needs to have 7 seats. Everything else may be less important, but you write everything down. And then what is the next step? Anyway, So we are in step 4 where we have documented everything that we need in the new car. So what is the next step?
We go to the car dealer and explain that we need a car that fulfills a set of requirements which we already have in our hand. And he would recommend generally the thing like a car that's going to have all of it or probably max of it. And then we have a look ourselves and see if that's going to suit us.
Yeah. So that's step number 5 and 6, and that's more or less accurate. What you exactly do is go to a car dealer or a set of car dealers, explain to them what, like, all the requirements that you have in the car, and then they will suggest a model that has all the features, or like you said, most of the features, and then you can check it out for yourself whether it actually suits your needs. Now, the analogy is not perfect, okay? Technically speaking, it's like you are getting into a bit of project manager mode as well, but just for our discussion's sake, it's good enough. Now, once you get the car, now the thing about cars is generally it's already built, you just buy it. You don't build a car based on the requirements that you give. That's very rare. Sometimes that may also happen if it is a very high-end car thing. They are built based on the requirements you give the car dealer, but mostly they will give you a car that's already available. So the whole like analogy kind of falls apart there. But anyway, what is the next step? Once you have finalized a car model that you think has most or all the features that you wanted, what is the next step?
May I?
Yeah.
So once we have established
It's very faint, your voice. Can you just I don't know, increase the volume?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Is it any better? Okay. Yeah. So when we have the list of the requirements, what we wanted, out of that, we must have prioritized the requirements which we wanted to have, like must have, should have, or a kind of a wish list. So when we have gone to the car dealer, he has shown us the variety of cars. Now we have to establish the priorities that we have identified earlier, whether those priorities are being met by those cars or not.
Yeah.
If say out of
sorry to cut you. So in this case, that's already done because the car dealer has finally chosen one car that he has shown you to say, oh, this car has all the features that you wanted. It doesn't have those 2 features that you wanted. It doesn't have those 2, but everything else it does. And you already know that the 2 features it doesn't have are not very important, for example, right? So you have a car that either meets all or most of your requirements. My question was, what happens next?
Yeah, then I'll check whether it is under the budget.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, if that is also a tick, then I'll move on to the next step,
which is
kind of finalizing the things, getting approval from my family members. Everyone is okay with that. If it's all yes, then we'll go ahead with that deal.
You go ahead and purchase the car, right?
Yeah.
There is one step in before you would purchase the car, which is test drive.
Test drive.
The reason why you do test drive is because it's sometimes easy to explain things, or at least you think that, oh, I want a car with leather seats and I want a car with all these features, and I want a SUV. Maybe one of your requirement is that you want an SUV. All of great, but when you test drive, you realize what you have actually asked for. You realize it in the actual form, right? It's not just words on a document anymore. It's not requirements in your head. It's an actual product in front of you. And that's when you shouldn't, but you may find things that are not really like you actually ask for them, which is a requirement, but in reality it doesn't actually work. So for example, one of your requirements may be that you needed leather seats, but when you actually test drive, you realize that the leather seat is not that comfortable and you may be better off with the fabric seat. Or one of your requirement may be that you wanted an SUV, or one of your family members told you that they wanted an SUV. So you made that one of your requirements and the guy showed you an SUV. But then when you drive the car, you realize that the car is rolling too much and your kids may actually puke a lot if they go in an SUV like on a regular basis. So you shouldn't be in that situation, but sometimes it's unavoidable that you have, when you actually test the final product, not as a car company would see. If car companies test their cars before they sell it to you, right? So, but they test it from their perspective. They see that, okay, we wanted to build a 7-seater leather-seated SUV and we have built it, and they will test it, and if it works, they are happy. But you are testing it from your family perspective to see if that particular car will suit your need, right? And that in a project term is called a user acceptance testing, and that wording is pretty clear, I think. Parli, you're gonna ask?
No, I was saying yes, it's a UAT, user acceptance testing, that user does. Yeah.
So you can do it, or you can ask your family who gave you the original requirements to do it, and you can do it with them or they can do it with you. Whatever be the case, someone has to finally test drive the car before it goes, and you as a BA have a very important role to play, and that is basically pretty much the last step. After that, you just explain to your new family members that, okay, we have driven the car, this is what we are going to buy. By the way, here are all the features of this car. This is how you open the last two seats, like the rear seats of the car. This is how you fold them down. This is how you start the car. This is how you drive it. Like whatever new features are there in the car, and your family may not have seen this car until they test drove it. You just explain the new features to them, and then you can pay for the car and take it out. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yes.
See, for those who have actually worked in IT projects and those who have actually worked as a BA, this may be a bit more familiar, all these terms and all these steps. For those for whom it's not very familiar, you don't have to worry too much, because like I explained with the car example, it's not a corporate thing. It's something that we do in day-to-day life, right? It's just a different way of thinking about a problem statement compared to what you might be used to. It's just being a BA is just a frame of mind. It's not a skill. I mean, it is a skill in that sense, but it's not something that you learn it's not a technique or it's not anything else. It's just a frame of mind to think about business needs in a very specific way and explain those business needs in a very specific way, in such a way that you are finally add value to the project. This slide kind of explains the challenges that come with a BA's role. See, like I said, it's not like being a BA is not like being a doctor or even being a software developer. You don't have to learn a lot before you get into the organization. It's not a lot of, it's not something that you can learn. It's just the way you deal with different situations that come up in each project, but at the same time you achieve what you are supposed to achieve, which is finding out the business needs and explaining to the developer. So some of the challenges that you might face as a BA are basically people who are supposed to explain to you the business needs or the current problems. They don't want to take their time and do it because they are obviously doing something like they have their own job, right? They are just they are supposed to take some time out of their regular job to explain to you what the problems with their regular job is, which some people are quite helpful, some people are not. And even if it is a project where everyone is working towards something, you still need, like, you may still face people who are not willing to take the time to explain everything. And second thing is, even if you know at a very high level where the problem is, you don't know who are impacted, because especially in a big organization, they're like, let's take an example, right? We had a problem statement that some of the labeling is not correct in products. Like, for example, if you go into Woolworth store, you buy some products, you'll see a lot of labels with the ingredients, with the instructions to cook or whatever, like food products. And some of the labeling was, we had to change them because there was some new law or whatever. But the thing is, we knew that we have to change the label, but we didn't know who are all the different people whom we need to talk to. Like the people who come up with the recipes, we needed to talk to them. That was very clear. But then we needed to talk to the people who print the labels. That was also pretty clear. But then we realized there were like so many different people whom we needed to talk to. And we sometimes don't find that out until you are like, you have spoken to 10 different people, you have written down all the requirements, and then like you are already halfway through developing this new label, when someone suddenly says, oh, by the way, I'm also interested in changing some things in the label. Can you take my requirements as well? But by then it might be too late. It's like, I mean, going back to the car example, it's like after you're buying after you have paid the deposit on a car, someone from your family says, oh, by the way, I wanted DVD screen on my car. Like, have you guys accounted for that? And then you can't change it at that time. But like, it's very hard to know who are all the different people who are impacted in the very beginning. If you are a small organization, it's simple. If it is a big organization, it's hard. And the third one is the one that we face all the time, which is everyone wants what they want. And sometimes it's going to be bloody, sorry for my so hard to find a product that meets everyone's expectations, right? Like some people may want 7 seats. Some people may say, no, I want a sports car. How are you going to buy a sports car with 7 seats? That's never going to happen. So you'll always see that everyone has their own opinion and they have contradictory opinions as to what the new product has to be, and that's always a problem. And then, like, this is something that I already covered, like even those people who have already spoken to you and who have already given you the requirements, they'll come at the last minute and say, oh, by the way, I forgot this particular requirement, can you please add it in? You may not have the ability to add it at that last moment. Fifth one is again something that people will face is one that you'd face a lot as well is, like, the IT people may not understand what business is saying. Like they won't understand these problems. They'll be like, but this is how our software behaves. Don't give us all these new requirements. We can't do all of it. Like, I mean, it's from their perspective that's correct, but you are the bridge who is caught between the clients and the IT people. So it's your job to somehow reconcile everything. And then the IT people might do some things that they have to do to stabilize the product, which may not meet your requirements. And sometimes, even though the clients who gave you the requirements see that what they've received is exactly what they've asked for, they may still change it because they don't like it what they see, or even if they see it, they won't understand what they're seeing, and they will complain about it at the last minute. And this is the key thing, though. Out of all of this, people get emotional very quickly, and they will blame each other. The IT team will blame the business will blame the IT team, and everyone will blame the BA for if the results are not satisfactory. So again, a lot of challenges come from the fact that you have two or more than one teams who have different agenda, and you are kind of sitting as the bridge between them. Does that make sense? Yeah, I'll take that as a yes. Yeah, or I'll take it as you guys are bored, so that's fine. Okay, so this is just a diagram representation of what I just spoke about, where the business analyst is kind of the person who is between the business, who are represented in purple, and the project, who are represented in green. So you are kind of the middle person between the two. It's more or less what I just mentioned earlier. So that's fine. So this slide probably tells you what a good BA should do, which is basically everything that I said earlier, but in reverse. Like, at the end of the day, did the project achieve what they really wanted? And are all the stakeholders happy with what they have asked for? So both the business stakeholders who have given the requirements, they should be happy with what they have received, and the IT stakeholders should be happy with what they have delivered, and there are no surprises at the end of the project. So this is a team who teach BAs how to be BAs. So it's their measurement criteria, but essentially, as a bridge, your job is to make sure that everything that the business wanted has been documented, and everything that the IT is delivering has been explained, and everyone is happy at the end of the day. And how would you achieve that? Well, like I said, being a BA itself is not a skill, but you need certain skills to be a BA. So you need very good communication, of course, because you are talking to two different people who don't speak the same language, metaphorically speaking. So you need to understand business needs and explain it to the developers, and you need to understand the system and explain it to the business. So you need really good communication skills in that sense. Critical thinking is important because one of the things that I said earlier, where I said emotions run high, right? So the key thing about requirements is there will be a lot of it, and some of them will be important, some of them will be not. But that's not always set in stone, because the person who gave you the not so important requirement may be very emotionally attached to their requirement, and they will keep claiming that their requirement is very important. But it's up to you as a business analyst to critically think and rank which requirements are actually important and which requirements are not, and use that priority accordingly. We cannot simply hear what business says and translate it to IT. We need to apply our thinking as well in there to do that. Thoroughness, basically what I said earlier, you have to document everything. You have to make sure that you have everything clearly written down, even if it is not so important in the future. Technical knowledge is an optional thing. If you know it, it will be easier to talk to the IT folks. But if you don't have it as well, you can learn it pretty quickly. Working knowledge of MS Office, again, it's something that will come very handy. And the last thing you need is you need to be brave, in the sense you cannot be scared by business people or the IT teams trying to talk over you or trying to bully you, because they know more than you, no doubt about it. But you have your own set of skills that you are bringing in. So you have to be brave to say no to either the business folks when they give you requirements that are not important, or no to IT folks when they do something that are not aligned with the requirements. So that's all, like these are the skills that you need as a BA, but being a BA itself is not a skill.
I think I would like to add here something, Balaji, that like you are saying this, I think all these things, come with, that's why people look for a bit of experience when it's a business analyst, because at this level, if you haven't been a BA, you don't even know what bravery means. You don't even know. And I could see that it's hard for you to explain critical thinking, because it is a soft skill. You cannot explain it in words. You cannot, I mean, you can give them 2-3 scenarios, but then they are not enough, because there will be always a different scenario. So I think for people who are here, and I know that you guys are new to IT and you want to be a BA, and you always have a question, why do they need experienced people? So these are the reasons, because the skill set of a BA itself comes with experience, but I'm not saying you cannot develop it. And that's why I encourage doing internships or doing on your own self projects. Try to think of a BA, try to think, you don't need to turn it into a software, but you can at least turn it into a requirement document of some sorts, and try to build these things. So yeah.
And one more thing I'll just add to that is, if you join an organization in their IT team as any role, like software developer, tester, whatever role you join in, you add that particular value where you translate business needs to requirements, even if your job title is not BA. That's how you develop these skills. Like, volunteer yourselves to do that particular task. If you need to understand business needs, you go talk to business rather than waiting for the BA to do it for you. And 2 years or 3 years down the line, you have been doing this, you can call yourselves a business analyst in an interview, and people are not going to worry about the fact that your job title was not BA. The fact that you have done the work is itself enough experience. So don't worry about the fact that you have a BA job. Just as long as you have.
That's a good point, Balaji. That's how I switched my role. So I started with testing role in Sydney. I had no experience in IT before coming to Sydney. So I started with testing, but I volunteered myself within the team because our team was agile and our product owner was on leave. So I volunteered myself to do the user stories for them, to do the requirement for them. And that's how I transitioned myself slowly to the BA role full-fledged. So being a tester, you can switch it to, and same goes to the other software roles. You don't have to be tester to do that. And you, as soon as you start understanding business needs and start thinking what they need, and you are voice of them, that's pretty much you need to get the grasp of.
Precise. I didn't start as a BA either. Like, I started as a process analyst. My job was to document assets processes. And then from there, I started looking into what are the problems, and then go on, so on and so forth. Sorry. How are you doing for time though? Like, I think it's already 11. I don't know how long this session was set up for.
I think we can start wrapping up, because yeah, I mean, it's already 11, but do you have a lot to tell?
See, this is a logical stop point, right? The rest you guys can read. You can definitely ask me questions. I was going to cover a few other things, like what happens in the world of agile in terms of a BA, because it's a very different world with agile, how BAs are supposed to work, and what are the different things that are generally asked in a BA interview. But again, they are there in the slide, so you guys can look at it, and if you have any questions, you can ask me. So I can share the slide out with you. I don't have a problem.
Let's take an audience poll. I think, guys, do you want to stay and continue the session? I think it will take minimum 20 to 30 minutes more, or you want to leave and do it another time on your own? Okay, I will say, raise your hand if you want to do it now. Okay, I just see 2 hands.
Battery low.
Yeah, I think I just see 2 hands. So maybe we can stop now for now, and then Sundeep and Supriya can like get in touch with you later.
All good.
Yeah, if you want, Balaji, if you want, you can just cover another slide in 5 to 10 minutes, and then, so that you don't leave anything which is really important. And it's up to you
Okay,
how you
see,
want to
I'll
take.
just cover the next two slides, which is all about how do companies choose a BA and what do they expect.
Yep.
Sorry, guys. 1 second. Yeah, so I'll just cover those 2 points and then we might wrap up. So I'll make it very quick. Hold on 1 second. I'll just connect this speaker. Speaker is low on battery. Sorry about that. Okay, yeah, I'll just cover that very quickly. So, like you said, right, these are the skill is that companies are looking for are communication, critical thinking, and thoroughness, and technical knowledge in the MS Office are more optional. But what they are like, whenever they have a requirement or an interview of hiring a BA, they basically expect you to at least do some of these things, because mostly the interview is going to have something like what I had in the early slide, which is you are going to buy a car, how would you go about it? That's the kind of case study based interview that I've seen a lot, and I've also been part of a lot of interviews, as in I was the interviewer. So in all those, they are generally case study based. They'll give you a situation and they'll ask you, how will you work as a BA in that situation? And you should always be able to say that you will prioritize the needs or requirements. You will simplify it in such a way that everyone involved, whether it is the business people or the IT people, they can understand it. Then all the requirements should be towards the bigger need, the bigger picture, not just focus on the individual requirement, but achieve the overall aim of the project. Don't take anything for granted. If a business gives you a requirement, you should question it. You should be brave and you should ask them, why do we need it and why do we have to do it? And you should have good communication skills, and you should not take too much on your head. Like, business is the one giving the requirements, the team is going to develop them. Your job is to act as a bridge. You don't add your own requirements in there, and you don't you just act as the critical middle person between the two teams. And more or less, like, these are the questions that you generally asked in an interview, like how would you gather requirements, how would you prioritize requirements, if there is a disagreement, how would you solve it, and if this is a scenario, how would you handle a situation like you know where there is a new requirement added at the last minute, and what do you think your BA should do? So basically, these are the kind of questions that they ask, and I hope that what we have covered so far will give you at least some hints as to how to answer these questions and how to think about a case that they may give in an interview. Again, this is not meant to be a coaching for BA interviews. This is more a holistic explanation of what a BA is supposed to do, but hopefully that also helps you in answering these interview questions. That's all I had in terms of this. I did have some other slides, like I said, what an agile world is supposed to be and what is the job of a BA in agile world, but that may not be, no, that may be too much for today anyway. So, and we are out of time. So that's all I had. Any last questions before we wrap up?
I have one.
Yeah.
Was just thinking, so if suppose you're somebody who wants to be a BA and they want to enter as a BA in any organization, so do they need to have a lot of like business knowledge? Suppose the organization develops software which is for banking software or finance related, so do the BA need to have a lot of knowledge of the banking systems, finances, before they can actually think to go for an interview in that organization? Or
See,
how this is
yeah,
handled?
so I understand the question. See, business knowledge is very good to have, it's not mandatory, but it's a very hard, like, it really depends on who your competition is. If they find someone who has the critical thinking and the communication skills, uh, but they don't have the business knowledge, and then they find another candidate who's not very good at critical thinking or in communication skills, but they have a lot of business knowledge, they will go for the first person. Because, or at least as an interviewer, that's what I have done. I have always gone for the person who displays these skills over business knowledge. But if you have two candidates who are equal in every way and one of them have experience in the business, then yes, you will go for that, because business knowledge is very useful to have as a BA. If you know the way it works, it's a very useful thing to have, but you can't really control it. So don't worry about it as a candidate. If you don't have the business knowledge, still go for it, go for the interview, and but focus on your other things, like how would you prioritize requirements, how would you communicate, though focus on that. But if you don't have the business knowledge and they find another candidate, that's fine, but it's not something that you can control anyway.
I just want to add in there, like in my experience, what I have seen is that banking people, they focus on having a bank experience for some reason. I don't know. Other industry are quite flexible. If you don't have their business knowledge, they are happy to take on as long as you have a BA skills. But for some reason, banking people don't like it. They will look for, if they have the candidate with the banking experience, they will go for that one. Yeah, but again, it's like when I moved from one company to another, I didn't have the experience of my current company, but still they hired me. So it totally depends on interviewer, what industry you're going in. But yeah, banking industry seems to be very tight.
So do you needed a lot of BA certifications before you actually went?
Not really, no. I don't have actually any BA certification. I'm the person who just learned on the job.
All right, okay.
See, Australia is not very big on certification, especially for something like BA. There are certifications for BA like CBAP and all that, but Australia, like in organizations, I haven't never really seen them give priority to someone who has a certificate versus someone who doesn't. So
also they don't really look for any BA specific certifications when they like advertise the job.
To your chances.
I think what Balaji is saying is your experience and your skill set is way above than certifications and domain knowledge. But it's always good to have these things as well, if you can. And that's the way to go. I think we'll take one more question. Last question, maybe Balaji, is it okay? Yeah. Sandeep, you have your hand up. Is it you want to ask something?
No, that is when you asked that do we want to continue this session. That's why I just raised my hand.
Okay, I'll just lower it up. Okay, I think we are done then, guys. Okay, thanks for making everyone happy by just staying some more time and just finishing with the important slides. I really like that it was an interactive session. I know we could have been covered everything if he was only presenting, but I think this way we learn more, right?
Right.
Yeah. So thank you, Balaji, so much. And I think if you want to cover and if you want to give another session later this year or maybe whenever you want, and if it could be related to BA, it could be related to anything else, we always welcome people like you with the expertise, and we'd be happy to host you.
Yeah, and thanks for giving the opportunity, guys. And I mean, I hope some things that I've listed here will help you in your pursuits as well.
I think it was a really good session. Personally, we have done BA sessions before in our group, but this was really different. We have already covered like what are the different type of BA and everything, but you just told that, what does a BA do? I think this is a question which people who are not a BA yet don't know. They want to be that, they have an idea, but going into details in depth and using that car example, so it was a real informative session, I would say.
Thank you.
I think maybe I will, if you can stop sharing, Balaji, then I will just take a screenshot of this just to share it on the LinkedIn or maybe our group.
Okay.
Yeah. Can people who can on their videos, can you on for a minute? If you're not like sleeping in the bed. Okay, only one. It's so nice to see faces, but I know the internet speed doesn't allow it for longer time. All right, I'll just take a screenshot then. Mm. All right, thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you for the session.
Yep. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
everyone.
weekend.
Bye.
Everyone, thanks, Balaji. Thank you.